Hey, and welcome to Out of Hiding, a podcast where we focus on growing in God by seeking His truth. Hosted by Dan Morrow and David Flores. All right. How's everybody doing?
Doing great.
You're all not drowning in the rain?
Not drowning. Sore. Started working out Monday. Been committed.
What are you
It's only
doing?
been 2 days.
What are you doing?
I started doing CrossFit.
Did you?
Yeah. It's been fun.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to it going every day now. So
Yeah?
It's only been 2 days. So
What time are you going?
I do the noon.
The
Or
noon?
9. One
Yeah.
of those two.
Very nice. Adam and I did that for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
What happened? Got old?
Fell off the wagon. No, there's a lot of things that happened.
I think that's a whole other podcast.
It was good, though. It's good.
So today we've got Pastor Adam Henderson with us. He's been a co-host. He is a co-host on this show, but we wanted to do an episode and kind of just highlight you, talk to you, hear your story.
Yeah.
You know the drill. You've been on here a while, but we never
Absolutely.
we just treat you like you're part of the show.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to highlight you and let your story ring out.
Love it. I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So tell me about yourself, Adam. Actually, I got a list over here.
Okay.
First of all, tell me how you grew up. Tell me about your family life. Tell me all that good stuff.
Man, I was born in Tyler, Texas, in a trailer home. Born at home, 1984. Anyway, grew up there for I think 4 years. Dad was in the ministry. Mom, stay-at-home mom. We had 6 total kids, so I was third of 6. And middle, right in the middle. Anyway, and so lived a little bit in Tyler, lived for like 2 years in Canton, and then really grew up in Waco, Texas. I think we moved to Waco when I was 5.5, 6 years old, something like that. And so just grew up, man, and lived there in Waco. Church, it was all church. You know, Dad was a senior pastor. We planted a church in 1991 in Waco, Texas. And so that's what we did all the time. The church had a school connected to it. So from first grade through 5th grade, I went to the school that was connected there to the church. So you want to talk about being at the church all the time?
There was no escaping.
You want to talk about being at the church all the time? That's what we did. And that's back in the day too, even services. You had Sunday morning, you had Sunday night, you had Wednesday night, you had a prayer night somewhere in there. You had all the things that are going on. So, and then follow that up with just being there for school, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, So that was life, man. Life was church and hanging out in the ministry, all that kind of stuff. And it was a good growing up. I enjoyed it, but that was my scope, was like church life.
So coming out of that, I'd like to hear how you break the mold of being the church kid and just being exposed to it at such a young age into how it transformed into a personal movement or a personal moment. Because to me, that's what's necessary to carry out where you are today is
Sure.
At some point there had to be this transformation of moving from dad and mom's, this is what life is, to wait a minute, I'm going to challenge this a little bit and have my own moment.
Absolutely. I think there was, honestly, I think there was a couple of moments like that for me. I don't know what it looks like for everybody else, but there was definitely a couple of moments like for me. Growing up, I had a relationship with the Lord, was baptized at 6 years old, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until about 17, though, honestly. Until I was about 17 at a youth camp, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that I really owned my faith at that point in my life, the best I knew how, where it wasn't just dad and mom's thing, but it was actually something that I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow, all that kind of stuff. And so there's a real clear moment at 17 years old at the end of the last night at a youth camp in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I felt like I just felt called, I felt called into it. I felt like this is what God had destined for my life. Now, I was a big basketball player too. I loved basketball. And that was before the internet, before you could really tell that there were other really good basketball players out there. And so I had big dreams, like I wanted to play basketball for the rest of my life, and literally all the time at the YMCA, in the parks, all that kind of stuff. That's what I did growing up. And so those are my hopes and my dreams.
At any point in that time, did you feel like you took on basketball as your identity?
Oh, definitely. Basketball was it, man. I mean, I went to a school. I was the basketball player at the school. That's how everybody knew me. That's how I knew myself. Was just through basketball. Loved the game. Still love the game. But yeah, definitely, it was my identity. 17 years old, have that moment at camp where like I feel like God really starts. He'd already started, but where I really just surrendered to Him, and went on and played basketball after that for a year in college. Had fun doing it, all that kind of stuff. And then in that season of life, I was like, I need to. Basketball isn't going to be it, right? I've got to prepare myself. I got to go get prepared for what I feel like God's calling me to do, which I felt like was ministry at that point. And so that's what we did. That's what I did is went to school for a few years after that, and got prepared as best I knew how, through ministry schools and all that kind of stuff. And at that point, when I was 20, when I was...
Can I go back real quick?
Yeah.
To the 17-year-old? When you're in the back of that, I've heard the story. When you're in the back row,
Yeah.
you're like, you mentioned wrestling with God in the back row.
Yeah.
What is that? What is it like? Do you feel something in your stomach? Do you like?
Yeah,
what is going
I
on?
think yeah, absolutely, great question. I think for me, what it looked like, it was a growing up in ministry, seeing that life, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't that I had this negative impression of it, but I really wasn't sold out that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wasn't to that point. I had people, as a preacher's kid, you have people come to me and go, man, you can be just like your daddy, all
No,
that kind
I'm
of
not.
stuff. Yeah. This is, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm going to do. Like this, no, I'm not going to do that. And so there was that whole moment there, like you said, back row, huge auditorium, stadium going, no, I don't want to. Like, even though there was this feeling on the inside of me that this purpose that was almost coming alive in the moment, I was still fighting it because I wanted my will, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go chase some other things. And so I had this moment in the back row where I'm really like wrestling with God, where He's asking me to lay stuff down, and I'm going, but I like it too much. Like, I'm going to hold on to this and all that kind of thing.
Not only that, that's who I am. This is who I am.
And so this is all going on. Nobody knows this going on around me. It's just this moment
internal
between me and God. Like, where I'm literally, you can call it,
Was there ever like a thing where, I can't feel the shoes that my dad, did you ever
Yeah, my
that
dad.
thought? Like,
oh man, definitely. My dad has a great ministry out there. He travels the world, does all the things, all that kind of stuff. So there was definitely, because what we do, I think what I did without even knowing it was I was comparing myself to my dad. Like, I can never do that. I can never get to that point. Like, this guy knows the word better than anybody I've ever been around. Like, how do I ever get to that point? I couldn't see myself doing it, And so there was this whole feeling of like, I can never measure up. And that was years and years and years process of getting
that's
through
huge
that.
because that's how I felt for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe you can help answer this. Why do us guys always want to compete with our dads? Like, it's just a thing.
That's our model.
It's just, and it's. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's because it's our model. Who, for most guys, for most boys growing up, that's your example. Is your dad. And so, if you have any competitive drive in you, which I would dare to say most guys do,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, like we're about to compete in this, It's
a silent competition.
Yeah, you got it going on the inside of you. So yeah, I had those
It
moments.
starts out young. I mean, when you play with your dad as a boy, you start out wrestling, and Dad's he's gonna let you know you're not gonna beat me.
Yeah,
And I don't know if they ever come out and say it.
I do it with Walker.
Yeah,
hold him down.
Yeah, but I remember those times when all I wanted to do was just beat my dad at wrestling. I wanted to be able to prove that I'm a man on my own, and what proves that I'm a man in my mind at that time is beating Dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't, and I'll tell you this, like, it wasn't any pressure that my dad had placed on me. I didn't feel like that, like this pressure to be somebody. It wasn't that, but I think inside we all, like you said, we wrestle with it.
Did you ever feel pressure from your dad for you to be a part of his ministry and join him? And
before you answer that, can you go back to now you're 21? We're getting ahead of ourselves. Go back to when you were 21 and finish that if you could.
So I was 21 and I realized, like, this is when I'm really starting to, I have that moment on the back row where I'm wrestling and I surrender. Here's what I tell people, man, I surrendered as best I could in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like I surrendered as best I could. I think as we journey with Jesus, we understand, I really haven't surrendered at all. But in that moment, at 17, I surrendered as best I could. Fast forward to 21, here comes another big surrender in my life. I'm about to lay this thing down, which I've been chasing for the past however many years, basketball, all this kind of stuff. I'm about to lay this down and I'm about to go get equipped.
So that's ETBU times where you're playing college ball.
Yeah.
And
having fun, doing it.
Yeah. Traveling.
Loving it. Absolutely.
Getting to do the thing.
Playing the game. I was freshman there. Saw the floor a lot. Played a lot. And so, like, it was still going good. It wasn't like I ran into, like, I'm not getting any playing time. I'm done with this. All that kind of stuff. Things were still good.
Yeah.
It was still good in my basketball life. But there was this. I knew it, man. I'd get done doing the basketball thing, and I'd go back to my dorm room. All that kind of stuff, and I could feel the Lord, like, asking me to lay it down almost.
Was that a feeling of, like, maybe lost zeal for where you were at? Or was it lost passion? Or was it, I think there's just something off here about this? God's asking me to do so. I mean, can you elaborate on that?
Oh, man, I think there was a lot playing into it at that point, right? Like the love for the game was going away.
Yeah, so God didn't audibly come into your dorm room and
nope, he never did that. The love for the game's going away. All of a sudden, I start picking up this, like, fresh love for, like, God and His Word, all that kind of stuff. And so I start noticing these things taking place on the inside of me. I felt like God was just asking me to lean into me.
So your desire in the moment changed.
Yeah.
What was fulfilling your desire, basketball, and
absolutely
no longer fulfilled it, and the desire changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got the desires. And I think people, you got to, as you journey with Jesus, we've got to be able to recognize those things in our life. You're talking about one season ending, another season beginning. It always starts with this desire, feeling, whatever you want to call it, and we have to be present enough to realize what's actually taking place. Because I think a lot of people don't in many seasons, and so they hang on to seasons of their life that were over years ago because God was trying to transition them. And thank God for His mercies and His grace and His faithfulness to us. Like, He doesn't give up on us. But we get stuck in places that maybe God was trying to move us on from because we don't recognize what God's actually doing inside of us.
So maybe that could be in the form of stubbornness.
Yeah.
Or in the form of fear.
I think fear is a big one.
The fear of the unknown, or the fear of losing status as the basketball player, or the fear of status change in general.
Yeah.
What if I walk away from this and then life goes the other way and I'm not?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
there's always that risk.
You're talking, because you're talking about identity at that point.
Yeah.
Who am I? Who has God created me to be?
Right.
This is who I've been for so long. Yeah. What does this look like? I think that's what I was wrestling with as 21 years old in a dorm room. No, I wasn't 21. I was about 20 at that time. In a dorm room out in Marshall, Texas at ETBU. Hanging out, God, what are you doing? But I made a decision. I'm going to go get prepared.
And so after that decision, then what?
School.
Yep.
Planting myself back in the church there in Waco, serving.
That was back in your dad's church?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Serving, doing all the things, right? It was just a full immersion back into it.
Vacuuming,
baby. Absolutely.
Owen.
I got a job. I got a job. That's what it was. I got a job as when I was in school. I got a job as the janitor there at the church. Basically, I wasn't even the janitor. I was the janitor's assistant.
The assistant to the.
That's what it was. Me and Clarence. Clarence was the janitor of the church. Clarence was great. And he, I'd show up for work and he'd have my list of things that I had to do for that day, all that kind of stuff, vacuuming, mowing, cleaning out a pond little fish koi pond that we had out in front of the church. That, this is the middle of summertime too. And it's
stagnant
just
water, hot,
just
moss
beating on your redhead, getting burnt up. Like,
out there in the koi pond.
Is this what we do as
Taking care of them
followers of
fish.
Jesus? Like, is this how we get prepared? But anyways, it was years of that, and then getting through schooling and then eventually took on my first ministry job up in Spokane, Washington. Did that for a number of years, and it was.
So why Spokane? Like, how did that door open?
That door opened because this was a relationship that my dad had with a pastor up in Spokane that they had been buddies early on in ministry, all that kind of stuff. They kind of reconnected, and I think through conversation, he said, I'm looking for a 3rd through 5th grade director at the church. Mm-hmm. And then my dad's like, well, and I will give this is big credit to my dad right here, because he could have kept me where he was, right? He could have said, no, you're going to work for me. You're going to work here in Waco and do all this kind of stuff. But he said, there's a friend I have up in Spokane who's looking for, this particular job, to be filled, 3rd through 5th grade director. You want to fly up, you want to fly up there and just check out the church and, get interviewed by them, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, sure, I'm kind of a hippie at heart, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go check anything out, like
as long as it's not doing clean ponds.
That's right.
You got a pond around here?
Where's your pond? I'll go check it out, and man, when we got up there, just felt like it wasn't anything audible from God, but it felt right, it felt right. And I didn't know anything about kids ministry. I'd just been in it for a long time as far as a student, as a kid. And so signed on the dotted line, signed right there, and moved up to Spokane, Washington, and lived through the winters up there. Snow on the ground. It's the kind of place.
Shock?
Oh, it's big time culture shock. Big time culture shock, where it was not Texas anymore. Spokane was a great place, though. Mm-hmm. I loved living in Spokane. I don't know. I think that's part of my makeup and who God's made me to be. Like, I really feel like, God has places for us to be, and whenever He calls us to a certain place, He gives us a grace to live there, to function there, and to flourish there. I do believe that, and so that's what I experienced up there in Spokane. It wasn't like that things were always beautiful and easy. I mean, I remember the first 3-4 months when I'm working kids ministry, they're questioning, do we want this guy like here, like literally, like, because I was performing so bad. Seriously, like I'm performing so bad that, like, they're questioning. They're having the 90-day review.
So in your 90-day review,
oh my gosh,
tell me about it.
Dude, it was the worst meeting I've ever been in my life.
Hard talk.
Hard talk.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't daddy hard talk anymore. You know what I'm saying? Up until this
that's
point,
that's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah. Up until this point, it's just dad just being hard.
Yeah. Dad's not treating. He can see what I got.
Absolutely. This was another person sitting in the room with me, and pages, like literally reports, not like I was doing anything morally wrong or anything like that, but it was just like, hey, you're not performing here, you're not performing here, you're doing pretty good here, but you're not performing here, you're not performing here.
So 1 out of 5.
Yeah, literally. And so here we go, like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think at that point, I had to make a decision. Am I going to allow these people to actually lead me? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm young, I think I got it all figured out. I remember going home.
That had to be so shocking.
I was crushing.
I bet you went in the meeting thinking, they're gonna sing my praise.
Absolutely, it's gonna be all good, man. This is so good. Look at this. It's And I remember leaving that meeting. I'm on staff. I remember leaving that meeting. I had a little Mitsubishi Lancer.
Fine automobile.
Fine automobile. I get into that car. It's a stick. It's a standard. I get into that car. I have an apartment that's like 1.5 miles from the church. And I get into that car and I just start bawling.
Yeah.
Crying.
Oh.
I felt like such a like a failure in that moment. It's like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not called to do this. Maybe.
Oh, so
it
it hurt enough to question your calling.
Oh, it rocked me.
Oh wow,
it rocked me. Yeah. And so I remember driving, and I get back to my apartment, and I called my dad, right? Because that's who I know, right? Yeah. I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, you're not going to believe what they said. They are missing it up here. They don't know. This is a big church. It's a church of 2,000 people plus. They don't know. All this kind of stuff. And my dad's not saying anything back to me. I'm just going off. And he had a real conversation with me. Like, he had a real conversation. He's like, well, Adam, you need to listen to them. You need to hear what they're saying. Because this isn't about kids ministry. This is about your life. This is about development. This is what God's doing in you. And so where I thought I was running to, and he supported me in some areas, that kind of stuff. Where I was running to, I was going to try to get some comfort. Here I am met again with the mirror.
Iron.
Yep. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With the mirror.
Bang.
And so here we go. We got to do some self-reflecting. And so I did that. And then so the next 6 months, like, I am just working my butt off. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these areas. That's the thing about me. If you challenge me, I'm gonna try everything I can to get
DNA
there.
Comes out.
Yeah, I'm gonna try everything I can to get there.
Yeah.
Because I think at that point in my life, I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot to prove, and there's only one way to go up from there.
Absolutely,
or go is up.
Absolutely. And so I did that, and for another 6 months, and things were popping, things were going. We did 4 services. We did a Saturday night service, and we did 3 Sunday morning services. So there's recruitment constant all the time.
Well, children's ministry is easy, so
exactly.
All the parents want to do their fair share and help. So
yeah, all the time. It's easy to get people in kids ministry. No, not even close. Yeah. So I did that, learned so much, humbled myself, became a student, and really worked on areas of my life that were weaknesses, and allowed people to speak to the places that I needed them to speak to.
So I want y'all to hear me, audience. This is a time to really listen. Adam is confronted early on in his life with a mirror. He has an opportunity to tuck tail and run, which he illustrated very eloquently. His dad even doesn't give him what he wants, but he persevered. And I want you to hear that, because what I see in this is God saying, can I trust you, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust you, Adam? Because 20 years from now, you're going to be leading a church of 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't pass this test, you never arrive there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we have the ability to see in the past right now, and
sure.
But that's what we all the 2 times forget, is when we're in life and we're seeing these moments, God's looking to say, can I trust you?
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust you with this little thing, this little 3 through 5 job up in Spokane? Can I trust you to do it?
Absolutely.
And that's quarter. What you do now?
Yeah. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Yeah. It was make or break time, and so we did kids ministry, and then the youth pastor. This is how I got in youth ministry. Here's a story for you. The youth pastor at the time, one of my good friends up there, had a good youth ministry going on, and his dog, he had to take his dog to the vet. His dog got like tremendously sick. These are dog people, right? And so it was a Wednesday night, last minute, he goes to the senior pastor and he's like, my dog is sick. I have to take him to the vet. We think he's going to die. I can't do youth tonight. He said, so I think we'll just cancel it. And the senior pastor at the time comes and knocks on my door, and he says, hey, youth pastor's out tonight. Can you lead youth? And I went, oh, I can lead youth.
Put me in, coach.
I can do that. Led youth. Did it one night. 2 weeks later, they come to me and say, hey, we actually want to transition the youth pastor to a different department, different thing in the church. We wanted to gauge your interest on being the youth pastor here.
Anything to get me out of 3 through 5.
I was like, baby, yes, I can do this. Yeah, I can do this. Sign me up. Yeah. Spent the next 2.5 years there in Spokane as a youth pastor. Things were rocking and rolling. So good. And it was a very fruitful, awesome time in ministry. Still with some tough things, working through all that kind of stuff, but it was very good. It was very good.
So wind us down from Spokane.
Yeah.
Spokane. I always say it wrong.
Spokompton.
Yeah, right. Wind us down. So at the end of that stint, what next chapter?
Yeah, so I'd been up there for a few years. This is where it gets really personal for me. We're in Spokane and having great fruitful ministry, all this kind of stuff. And my dad had moved on, but was about to go back to Waco and plant another church, which is a whole nother story. We don't have time for that today. And so he asked me if I'd come down there and move back down to Waco and help him launch this congregation. And so we did. We moved back down to Waco. And so I'm married at this time, right? Mm-hmm. And so we moved back down to Waco. We have our little 1-year-old daughter. There's a lot of details that I'm missing for this time period. So we moved back down there, and man, things just fell apart. Mm-hmm. Everything that was going good in Spokane, I'm now back in my hometown in Waco. Oh baby, crash and burn is right. Mm-hmm. Marriage just completely falls apart. Mm-hmm. Falls apart, and she leaves, and serves me with divorce papers and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm like, Lord, I moved down to Waco, and I've got some things in my life that are completely off at this time, right? Mm-hmm. Like some things that are just not lining up, that are not good. Like,
so you're going through intense pain.
Absolutely.
And you have all the fruit of that pain.
It's showing its face.
Yeah.
Here we are in the middle. Lee talked about Valley of Disappointment this past week.
Was it more like a Grand Canyon?
Dude, that's right. I was like, ain't no valley. That ain't a valley. That's right. This is the Grand Canyon.
That disappointment.
Oh, era. Dude. So when all that took place, right, it wrecked me, threw me into a tailspin. Probably about a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in this spot. Utter depression. Don't want to get out of bed. The call of God is done for my life. How am I ever going to recover from this? Am I still called? I mean, all this kind of stuff, wrestling with it. The most painful part of my life.
Are you still helping your dad?
No, I am out of ministry.
Church.
I'm out of ministry, so I'm floundering at this point. Let's just call it what it is. I'm floundering. Everything that I had is now gone, literally, from my family to ministry.
How hard did you try to keep it intact?
To a house, huh?
How hard did you try in that moment to keep it intact?
I gave it everything I had.
And still seeing it vaporize.
Gone.
So, are y'all hearing that? Like, there's times in life where things just vaporize. You can do everything you possibly could do in your own strength, and they just vaporize. I wanted to illustrate that because all too often I hear that, why do bad things happen? Sometimes just things happen. It's life.
Yeah. I mean, and, choices we make sometimes.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And so that's where I sat, completely out of ministry, all that kind of stuff, just in a terrible spot in life, depressed out of my mind, not knowing what tomorrow, not even knowing if I even want it tomorrow, honestly.
Yeah,
you're a dad at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that even? What is that?
It was terrible.
You're just,
yeah.
There's nothing.
You're just, trying your best, but you look back on it and you go, I could have changed this, I could have done that, all that kind of stuff. But when you're in the moment, you're spun out, completely spun out. And so that's where I found myself for, like I said, about a year and a half. And I move up during that time. I said, basically I'm out of ministry, all that kind of stuff. I move up to Colorado Springs. That's where my parents were living. I move up to Colorado Springs, and I become a foreman of a landscape crew.
It's glamorous.
It's the beautiful life. and I mean, it was a bigger landscaping company, and so we're mowing things like the Olympic Training Center, the malls, all these huge places.
That's
so
where your real love for lawnmowers was
right,
born.
that's right in that moment, this season right here. And in that season, I was attending churches. I was attending the particular church up in Colorado, but wasn't plugging in. I was like, no, I'll go to church, but I'm not plugging in,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm working that, end up working that for about a year and a half. And I had this buddy who just would not let me go. A lot of people in this time of my life have separated themselves. I was going to say wrote off. Maybe they had, but they separated themselves. I didn't have where I was getting phone calls all the time, right? Like, text messages, all that kind of stuff. This is a season of loneliness. This is a season of like who I thought was in my corner, and I'm not even talking bad about them. Please don't hear it that way. They're not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not there.
Yeah, they're going, man. I don't want him screwing my life.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. I got to move on.
Yeah,
I got to move on. Exactly, and I don't blame them one bit. I don't blame them one bit. There was one, however, his name was Dan Bursch. Now, Dan was the worship pastor at the church we worked at in Spokane. So I was a youth; he was a worship guy. And he calls me. He's like actually like coming down every now and again just to hang out with me, and he's always texting me. He's Facebook messaging me, all this kind of stuff. just trying to be. He's in my corner. He's cheering me on, all this kind of stuff. And like I'm annoyed with it. I'm
Sure.
like, oh my gosh, Dan, don't you see the writing on the wall?
Was you avoiding him?
All the time.
Yeah,
all the time. Right? I'd see his message pop up, and I'm like, I might get back to it in a couple.
I'm
days.
on the lawnmower.
Yeah. But he just wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop, and I'm thinking, Dan, don't you see the writing on the wall? This is over, man. This is done.
I'm landscaping now.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm about to start my own landscaping company up, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he calls me and he says, "Hey, I am. It's a year and a half, 2 years later. I am moving over to Seattle. This is where Dan's from, and actually, I'm taking over a church there. I'm going to be He was on staff. He had moved in the meantime back to Seattle, his hometown. He was on staff at a church, a small church there. He said, our senior pastor is leaving. I'm about to be the next senior pastor of this particular church. I want to know if you would come up here and be a part of my staff. And I was like, no, absolutely not.
I tried that.
Yeah.
Who's going to run this lawnmower?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. No, Dan, I absolutely will not. He kept hitting me up. And so he said, I want you to come up here and just hang out with us on a Sunday morning. And so I did. I finally relented, and I went up there and hung out with him on a Sunday morning. And actually, I was preaching that. I preached that Sunday. I hadn't preached in like two and a half years. And so he talked me into doing that.
Wait just a minute. Tell me about that message.
Oh, I remember the title of the message.
What was it?
Hope deferred. Hope deferred makes the heart sick.
So who was you preaching to?
Everybody out there thought I was talking to them. I was talking to myself. And that message, they had this is like before like podcast, like all this stuff, but they had like this little online link that people could go and listen to. Mm-hmm. And that message just exploded. Boom! It exploded. He said, I want you to come up here and be my associate pastor. And God had been softening my heart up until this point, right? And so I said, Seattle, Washington? Like what? But I could feel it. I could feel that hope. I could feel that spark coming back alive in me. And so I moved up there. I'm literally, me and my brother Micah, living in Colorado Springs together. We packed his Ford Explorer up. We called it the Ford Exploder because we didn't know how long this thing had. And we packed it up. Literally, my parents laugh at me now because I threw, this is that hippie version of Adam. I threw like 2 pairs of jeans in the car. I threw all my toiletries in the car and like 4 or 5 shirts and moved up there. Went and lived with Dan Bursch. Me and Micah shared a room in Dan's house because there was no finances. at the church, like to come on staff. I think I was actually, I think he was paying me something very, very small. It was an opportunity, though. I recognized it for what it was. This is an opportunity that I believe God has placed in front of me. I don't care about anything else. I'm just going to say yes to it. So we're living in Dan Bursch's guest room for about 6 months, and we're just gearing up. We're giving everything we have to the church, and church starts growing, and all of a sudden, here I am. I'm able to come on full time at the church. So me and Mike could go get our own apartment. All this kind of stuff. Mike is up there at the time, wanting to become a worship leader. Doesn't know what that looks like. Dan's
coaching him up.
Dan's coaching him.
Oh,
Dan's coaching him, teaching him piano, teaching him how to lead, all that kind of stuff. So we're both just getting poured into by Dan during this season, and he's doing it. In that season, I read a book. In this book, I still refer it to people all the time. That book was called Jesus Is by Judah Smith. And it's not like a deep theological dive book or anything like that, but it hit me in the season I was in. It hit me and gave me this fresh revelation of who God actually is, right? Because I've tied him to so many. God must be so disappointed in me. God must be looking down on me going, man, what could have been, Adam? What could have been? You know, all this kind of stuff. This is what I'm believing.
Yeah.
I read this book, and it radically changed my life. Changed my life. Gave me a fresh understanding of who God is as Father, who God is in like in my life, all this kind of stuff. And so, dude, I ripped that book apart. I don't know how many times I read it. A lot. Wow. And then I started taking other people through it. And so there was this moment with that book. I'm not even sure I can fully explain it all, but that one particular book just lit me up.
How humbling was it to come from a 1.5-year stint of just mowing grass and being down in life to preaching? Like, 'cause I want to illustrate something there. That you could have had a moment of severe pride, and not looking in the traditional sense we think pride is, but pride could have said, I ain't doing that. I got nothing to offer.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that. God's done with me because look at this.
Yeah.
But you humbled yourself and took an open door to go carry out ministry.
Yeah.
From a spot that you weren't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that to me is phenomenal. That tells me a lot about your heart, Adam.
Man, it was. I like to say it was overnight, right? Like I took the first opportunity, but it was a process.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a process of humbling myself.
So there was pride there, and you were shoving it down.
Yeah, it's
and
like
and you were bargaining about.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a season of major growth in my life.
Yeah.
Spiritually, emotionally, all that kind of stuff. It was just a season of growth. So I ended up being there in Seattle for about 3 years. Three however years, and the church just started growing. I was youth pastor again. Let me tell you my roles at this church. I oversaw kids ministry. I wasn't in there on Sundays, but I oversaw kids ministry. Made sure everything was good there. I was the youth pastor, and so we did youth on Sunday nights up there. So Sunday nights youth pastor. I was a young adult pastor, and so that was Tuesday nights, I believe. I was the small group coordinator director, so I oversaw. Actually, I had to launch the small groups. Right, there wasn't a baseline for any of it. There was no foundation, so I had to launch the small groups. And there was one other one. Oh, I was director of outreach.
Just a meager job description.
Oh, and I was just so thrilled to have anything to do. Like, honestly, I felt like I was back.
Back in the game.
Here we go.
With a different view.
Yeah, with a completely different view.
How did your perspective change from the first stint of ministry to the second?
Yeah, I think I think it was all in the first stint. I think it was all I deserve this.
Oh, so entitlement.
I deserve this.
My dad's done it.
Yeah,
I can do it.
I deserve this. Like this is it. Yeah, of course I'm here. I deserve this.
Ooh. So you're telling me that I deserve turned into upside down life?
Absolutely. It wrecked everything. Wrecked it all.
Oh man.
into the second stint in ministry, which was like, I'm here to serve. Right? Like, like I'm here to serve. Oh, you want me to lead kids? You want me to do youth? You want me to outreach? Yes, absolutely. Why not?
Why not?
Sure. You know, did that, and the church grew and did great. I was preaching like on Sunday mornings, like maybe like once every. I wasn't even preaching a lot on Sunday mornings. Maybe once every 2 months or something.
Yeah.
And got to do that, and that was a great outlet. That was always fun, but just so busy doing life. Like doing ministry, in ministry, a part of it, and it just felt so good to be back.
So did it go from Seattle to Canton?
Mm-hmm.
So talk me through that quick, and then I want to really talk about Radiant and all of that.
Seattle to Canton. I knew I'd been up there for 3 years. I knew it wasn't home. I knew it was a season. Felt like the Lord started speaking to my heart, and I felt like I heard the Lord say, "Hey, I'm sending you back home." I didn't know what that meant. I knew it meant Texas. I just didn't know where, what, opportunities, all that kind of stuff. So I go have a meeting with Dan, who's my senior pastor at the time, and it's a review. It's a year review, right? And so we're sitting in a coffee shop in Seattle. He's got his laptop open. He's going away. And I said, Dan, I've got to be honest with you. This is what I feel like the Lord's saying to me. And I think my time in ministry up here is coming to an end. I don't want to leave abruptly, any of that kind of stuff. I want to leave well. And so he closes his computer, and we both cry. This has been a season of healing, ministry, God doing work, all this kind of stuff. We're literally middle of Seattle's coffee shop just crying with each other. And I leave that meeting. I get a call from a guy who I had not previously talked to. And he says, is this Adam Henderson? I say, yes, sir, it is. He says his name. He says, man, I have 2 churches. He's an overseer of churches. He said, I have 2 churches that are without a senior pastor right now. Your name has come up a lot through connections that each one of us had. Anyways, it all worked its way out, God working. He said, one of them's in Oklahoma City. And I was like, I'm not going to Oklahoma City, or Oklahoma. There's no desire there. I don't feel like that's what God's doing. He said, there's a church that's shutting down in Canton, Texas, and we're looking for somebody to replant a church. And all of a sudden I start seeing the hand of God. Like, I lived it. He said this, there's a church in Canton, Texas, a small town you've probably never heard of. That's what he said. And I said, no, actually, I have heard of that place. I have heard of that place because I lived there for 2 years when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And so he said, well, why don't you come down and we'll have a meeting with you. We'll fill you out, all this kind of stuff. Me and a group of guys, overseers, all this kind of thing. So came down, and anyway, it all went really well. I felt like this is what God was doing. There was moments there that I'm passing over, but I just knew you could see God going, yes, this is it. Yes, yes. And so that's what ended up happening. We ended up here. I ended up here in Canton.
God, if I get this right, God restored you, put you in some teaching, put you out in the training, and then He delivered you a mega church with $1 million a year salary.
That's right.
You had finally arrived, and you no longer had to work at it.
That's exactly what it was. You know my story well.
You just left your brother in Seattle, or what?
No, Micah had moved down to Dallas at this point to go to Christ for the Nations.
Cool.
So he went to school, did all that kind of stuff. So it was just me up there, hanging out. I'd had a community built by then, right? Been up there for a while, so I was like, go do your thing, big dog. Mm-hmm. I'm good.
So you walk into Radiant on Sunday morning. There's 2 people, and then talk me through that process.
Yeah, come. Here we go. We're starting to replant or plant a church, start a church, all that kind of stuff. Had a worship leader at the time, a mom and a daughter. The daughter played the acoustic guitar, and the mom helped her sing. And so we have literally 12 people in there, that kind of stuff. And everybody's so fired up, geared up. Second week into it, they quit.
Oh, wow.
Literally nothing. I'm like, what am I going to do now? Here we are. What are we doing? But Micah's over in Dallas. And so I called Micah, and he's been training and working, be a worship leader, all that kind of stuff. And I said, Dallas is an hour away. I said, if you'll drive over to Canton, I'm not getting paid at the time. There's no salary. There's none of this kind of stuff. If you'll drive over to Canton, I will give you $50 a week.
big money. Big money. I'm like, well, I'll do that now.
Yeah.
Bet.
Yeah, and he said, yeah, I'll come over. So Micah led from the keyboard, and I played the drums. And then after the worship set was over, I'd get up and preach, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, absolutely. And it was, it was a whole process. I mean, that's 10 years ago now, and that's kind of where we started. We just started. I was just going to be faithful. I felt like the Lord told me this when I came here. Many times in church we do what we do here and expect people just to find us, right? Like just find us. We have our doors open. Y'all come to us. All that kind of stuff. But I felt like the Lord said this. He said, Adam, I'm asking you to serve the city. So whatever it is, find a door, find something, find anything that you can get your foot into, and just like serve the city. So we started a little like on our little bitty budget that we had at the time. I started showing up at like the laundry mats, doing a thing called Laundry Love. And we were paying for just people's laundry as they come to the laundromat, and just having conversations with them. We just started doing a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, I never heard that.
We started doing that. I started just doing anything, refereeing little basketball games here and there. Like I'm just trying to get into the community. I'm just trying to see people, have people see me, all that kind of stuff. And that's what we started. I started CrossFit. I wasn't really, I was out of shape, but I was like, it wasn't a big goal of mine, but I saw a lot of people going to CrossFit, and I was like, I'm going to go there. I bet I can meet some people there. Didn't even have the money to pay for it, like I think I had 1 month's payment on me at the time. and did it and met a lot of people through that, a lot of connections. That's where I met Dan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where I met Dan in CrossFit. And so just started doing all that kind of stuff because I could feel like, I knew I could feel the burning passion for what God wanted to do here in Canton and in Van Zandt County. And so it was like, what does this look like to practically try to get this thing off the ground? You got to get some relationships. You got to form some relationships in this community. And so that's what I strive to do while holding the best Sunday morning we could pull off at the time.
When does your wife Jessie come into the picture?
Jessie shows up about 6 months after I'm here.
Okay. And
we're in that same season, and so she comes in one Sunday morning, and I'll watch her walk in, and her and her family, they come and sit down. Right there's like 15 people there, so you notice everybody coming in, and so I watch her come in. And if you know her dad, Joe, my father-in-law, Joe will have a conversation with you. You know what I'm saying?
He likes to talk.
Joe will have a conversation with you. And so me and Joe strike up a friendship. And he tells me one day, he goes, yeah, my daughter, through a lot of different things, she leads worship. And I'm like, you're kidding me. She leads worship? And so I joke at it at the time because I was like, she's really cute too, like all that kind of stuff. But I'm not looking for that. I'm not any of that kind of stuff at this point in time. I am trying my hardest to plan a church. And so there's my thought process. Do I want a girlfriend or do I want a worship leader? Yeah. And I was like, we want a worship leader. Yeah. And so, anyways, she came in, Jessie comes in, and so we're friends for like the first 2 years. That's all we are. She's leading worship, I'm preaching, all that kind of stuff. We're just friends, all those kind of things, and it was nothing else. It was just like getting to know each other, that kind of thing. And there was no really ulterior motive behind it. Sure, I would have loved it, but I wasn't even thinking through that frame of mind yet. It was all church. It was all church. It's all church.
You just slid in the DMs after, 2 years later.
yeah, exactly. I said, "Oh, you cute."
By the way, you are cute. No.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we started dating. We started dating and got married quickly thereafter because we already knew each other. We had done ministry together. We'd hung out just as friends, all that kind of stuff. So I knew when I asked Jessie out, I was like, I'm gonna marry this girl. I'm not looking just to try to play the field or, go on a date for fun or any of this kind of stuff. I was like, I'm going to marry this girl. And so that's what happened. And we got married.
She's leader and
leading worship, and then
church
now
starts growing.
Yeah, church starts growing. I mean, now I got like this partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. I got this partner, and we're doing anything and everything that we can. Like we're diving into church conferences all over the place, trying to grow ourselves, trying to be better leaders, better better pastor, all that kind of stuff. And so that's what we did, and we start seeing growth come, and people start showing up. I mean, I remember the first Sunday morning where we had like 100 people over here. I'm like, we were a mega church, like this is incredible. Like, look what God is doing. All this kind of stuff.
What about when we really knew we had arrived? Is when we got the pallet wall.
Oh, absolutely. We're like, we have made it. We have made it.
We did it.
But God brought in people. So Jesse comes, right? But then God just starts bringing in key players, key people who are like, I'm here. Me and Dan, right? I meet him at CrossFit, all this kind of stuff. One of the things I never did when I was out there, I never went to like serve people and go, hey, and by the way, you should come to my church.
Yeah.
That was never the game plan. That was never it.
I
It
knew
was
Adam
just
a long time before I knew he was a pastor. That is not a lie.
it was.
That's awesome.
Well, it was. I think if I'm not saying that's completely wrong all the time, but I think there's this self motive that can so easily creep in. I'm going to serve you because secretly, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come be a part of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I just
Serving me or serving him?
Wasn't it? Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And so, you start getting people who are coming in. You got the Hearns who come in, and they're there. You've got, I'm trying to think of all the players. The Patillos, they come in. All this kind of Patillos. You got Dan and Don who come in, and they start being a part. After a while, and Dan's like, yeah, I lead worship too. Me and Dan had conversations. He told me some of his story, and it's amazing to see what God put together. Okay,
and then can you give me some of those statistics you gave Sunday, if you know them off the top of your head? Because that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
You have 2 campuses. You have, lots going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we launched.
Always something.
It's always something, baby.
Every day.
We launched. We've been here in Canton for 10 years now, and it's grown. So many lives have been changed. For instance, baptized 128 people.
Wow.
This year, or in 2024, we baptized 128
started with 12
people.
And you baptized 128.
Let's go. Actually, pause right there. I felt like the Lord told me a year into ministry, 6 months, I need you to get a baptismal for this place, because it didn't have one. We didn't have any way to baptize people. And so I contact the church across town, and I said, hey, can I borrow your baptistry? And they're like, yeah, come over here and get it. So I take my truck and trailer, and I go and grab it.
Did you strap it down?
I didn't.
It'll ride.
It'll ride. Oh, I got problems. But it made it by the grace of God. Yeah. Put it all together, all that kind of stuff. Baptized, I think, like 2 people, something like that. And I felt like the Lord said, "Now I want you to buy that because I'm going to do something with water baptism. It's going to be a marker for life's change in this church." And so I went to the church and I was like, "Hey, I saw you. They had a new one." And I said, "Can I buy this one I borrowed from you? Can I buy it from you?" And I was hoping they'd say, "Yeah, no, you can just have it."
Yeah, it's yours.
They're like, no, it's 10% more than new.
Yeah. I think they charged us. It was like $1,000 or something. It was a big stretch to buy this thing, $1,000. At that point in season. So at that point in time, so bought it, and then we just start. People's lives are being changed. People are coming. They're getting saved. We're baptizing them like the next week. They're like, "When's the next baptism?" Like people ask me that now. Back then, the next baptism was when somebody said, "Hey, I want to be baptized." That's when the next one was.
Yeah.
Get them in.
All that kind of thing. And so, anyway, 128 people baptized 2024. Had over 300 people give their life to Jesus. Youth going bananas.
One year of Wills Point location.
Yep, launched Wills Point.
That was huge. And
in the last weekend of January 2024, launched Wills Point.
We served 147 families for Christmas. We provided some form of Christmas for 147. That equates to, I want to say, right at 400 kids.
Yeah,
wow,
absolutely, 400
between
kids.
both campuses. Mm-hmm. Just phenomenal benevolence.
Absolutely. what else have we
We
done
sent
this
50
year?
kids to camp.
50 kids to youth camp.
And a lot of them had zero money.
Yeah.
God just brought in money. God laid it on the hearts of the people to,
Yep.
and 50 of those kids have now turned into almost 100 kids.
Yeah.
So God's just adding to our numbers.
Gave over $250,000 to missions and outreach.
Yep.
Got a bus.
Got a bus. Come on now.
Let's go. Let's go.
I feel established now, you know?
Yeah, we got a bus. It's pretty too.
But yeah, man, 10 years into it, you know, I always think about this. If God did that in 10 years, what do the next 10 years look like, you know? And I've got more faith and vision right now than I ever have in my whole life.
Let's talk vision.
Yeah.
Let's talk vision. Find and follow, Adam. Let's go.
Yeah, we feel like the call that God's given us here as Radiant Church, a lot of great churches in the community doing what God's asked them to do. But for us, our uniqueness is this, man, we want to help people find and follow Jesus. So what does that look like? Well, we want people to know that God's madly in love with them, no matter where they are in life. No matter if you're the addict right now who's listening to it, no matter if you're waking up with a hangover, no matter, you know, where your marriage is falling apart, you know, any of these no matter if you're super successful in life right now and everything's just banging, you know what I'm saying? Here's the deal. God's madly in love with you. He is in love with you right now. And so we want to help. We want to help in the process of people being connected with Jesus. We want to help people find Jesus. We don't want to stop there, though. Like, that's the point of salvation. We want people to understand and really buy into this following of Jesus, right? That's what Jesus talks about. If go and make disciples of all nations. Matthew, there with the Great Commission, he says, "Look, I'm just not into people finding me one time. Like, I want them to follow me with their life. Disciples. We want to make disciples." And so that's what we're really digging into right now is what does it look like to make a disciple? You know what I'm saying? What does it look like to actually surrender yourself on a daily basis, pick up your cross and follow Jesus? And so that's what we're digging into right now. And man, we're seeing so much fruit from so many different people.
Yeah, that is just fostering an environment of transformation in people's lives. I just see it. We see it every week.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that, but I mean that's what we're going to do. A lot of that's taking place, outside of a Sunday morning. You know, Sunday morning this is what I tell people. Like, I'm going to throw the biggest net I got on a Sunday morning. I'm going to catch as many fish. I'm going to catch as many people as I can and watch God just sweep them into his kingdom. And then after that, it's about cleaning things. You know, God's going to clean me up. I'm going to learn how to follow Jesus. So our whole goal, our whole vision, our whole mission here at Radiant Church is to help people find and follow Jesus, and then watch their lives be radically turned upside down by his grace, his compassion, his love for them. And I see that time and time again. I see it in your life, David. I see what God's doing in you. These things don't happen by accident.
Yeah, the best visual I have right now in my head is I feel like, we're in the ocean and there's a boat. And I feel like what I did personally is, come Sunday and I got my hand on the boat, so I'm not drowning, I'm floating, and then you get into the small groups, you get into the connect groups, you get into youth, you get plugged in, and then it's like somebody that's already on, like Dana, for instance, grabs me, picks me up, puts me on the boat, and then now it's my job to grab people and start picking them up. That's my visual for what's going on.
So whose hand are you grabbing right now?
Yeah.
I'm just going to put you on the spot.
I feel like, it's sad to say this, but I feel like my family, I'm grabbing my family.
That's amazing. That's the most important one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like, I'm getting them on the boat. Not that they're, but I'm trying to get everybody plugged into the family. So that's what I feel like.
Yeah. That's awesome. Following Jesus, I like how somebody once said it, right? There is teaching is absolutely vital and important, but I like this phrase, and it says, "Follow me as I follow Jesus." You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this doing life together. This is what we see in the early church, Acts 2. They're at the temple. They're in each other's homes. They're breaking bread. They're hanging out. They're having fun. They're opening the Word. They're praying. They're worshiping. They're doing all this together.
It is a lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lifestyle.
Absolutely. And I think that's where it all culminates to, right? Is like, hey, I'm I want you to follow Jesus, and the best thing I can do for you is to have you walk alongside me as I'm following Jesus. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, we're gonna do this together.
Yep.
We're gonna be in this thing together. We're gonna celebrate on the mountaintop together. Man, we're gonna walk through the valley together. We're gonna allow God to do His work in our life.
Let's talk about walking through the valley. I know we're getting close to time, but I think as my experience goes with church, walking in the valley part didn't exist
Yeah,
because Christians they weren't supposed to be in the valley.
yeah,
Well, that's what attracted me so much to Radiant is no, we're not going to deny the existence of the valley.
Sure.
We're going to embrace it, and we're going to create an environment and foster, teach people how to help others get through the valley.
yeah,
You know, how to lean on God as we're going through the valley, rather than deny its existence and then blow up our lives.
Well, yeah, I think it preaches good.
Yeah.
Right? I do. I think preaching that everything is going to be great all the time. Like, it preaches really well, and then people have real life experiences and go,
Oh, I got conned.
they didn't tell me the truth.
I got conned.
Yeah, they didn't tell me the truth. I'm feeling all sorts
Either
of ways
they didn't
right
tell
now.
me the truth, or there's something so wrong with me that God won't do it for me.
Sure, that's right.
That's the other one
right.
that really hurts me when people take on that shape of, oh my God, I'm so damaged that God can't even do anything with me. I'm done.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Psalm 23. Even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear
I
no
take a look
evil.
at my life and no, sorry.
Coolio had it right too.
Yeah, he did.
But what does he say? Even when I'm in the valley,
Yeah.
here's what I understand: God, you're with me.
Yeah.
You're with me, and so because you're with me, I know this isn't a destination. This is just part of the journey, you know.
Yeah.
And there's more. There's better. There's
Look what
bigger.
happened
There's greater
in
out
your
there.
life in the valley.
Yeah,
Much growth
Yeah.
took place in the valley.
absolutely. God sent people my way in the valley.
Yep.
That helped. You know, we think about pulling somebody out of the valley. No. They walked through it with me.
Yep.
That's what they did. They walked through it with me, and I think that's what we get the opportunity to do now, right?
Yep.
Is we get to meet people in real life and help them understand, or what it even looks like,
Yeah.
to find and follow Jesus. It's powerful. It's life-changing. And I think we look up in a few years and we go, man, look what God's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Look where I was, and look what He's done up to this point.
Yep.
We
You
stay
get to,
faithful
you get to
the
see that a
journey.
lot. You and Dan, getting to see where people were and where they are now, and
Yeah,
that's awesome.
absolutely.
Just in this room, Adam's got to watch a transformation in my life. I've got to watch a transformation in your life. I've got to watch a transformation in my kids' lives, other people's kids' lives, other family. I mean, it's never ending what God is doing right here in this little community in East Texas.
Yeah.
It just echoes His love, His endless love. Like, East
Yeah.
Texas is good enough
Come on.
to get God's love.
Come on. That's
We're right where they're at.
It's so funny when I have guys come in, from LA, Buffalo, these big places.
Oh, yeah.
And they're driving out here. I always get a phone call like, "Hey, is this the address?" Like, as they're driving, because they're like, "I don't see any." I'm like, "No, keep going." And then they pull up and they're like, they see all the cars like in the parking lot, people coming, all that kind of thing, and they're like, "Where are all these people coming from? Like, where are they at?" Like all that kind of stuff. And they love it. They're like, "This is incredible what God's doing here. This is incredible, the impact that He's allowing Radiant Church to have." And so, man, we've done it for 10 years now. I look forward to the next 20. Honestly, look forward to the next 20 and go, God, we're here to serve You. This is going to be our mission. We're going to help people find and follow You. I'm going to follow You. I'm going to continue to do that. And I can't wait to see what it looks like moving forward.
Shameless plug here, but back to just vision. If you heard Adam, if you caught it, right when he got here, I'm going to serve this community. I'm going to serve this community. That's what God's put on my heart. Well, in March, we have our first big thing, and we're going to go out.
Let's go.
We're going to go serve the community.
Yeah.
We're going to go. I think we've got a roof to replace on a house. We've got some trees that have fallen down. We're going to clean up. We've got some big projects.
A couple of nursing homes.
Yeah, couple of nursing homes. We're God's thing hadn't changed. God's vision hasn't changed. We could choose to get bored with it and try something else, or we can just stick on God's plan and just run with it. That's what I love about Adam, and he's just a visionary. I could get behind this man. I'll follow him anywhere, by the way. But I'm so excited about that serve day because we're doing what Jesus asked us to do.
Yeah.
And
So, what's your hope for the
Love it.
people? Give us some ending message. What's your hope?
Hope for the people. I think my hope is, oh man, I think my hope is this: is that people would learn the beauty in surrendering more and more to Jesus. What I mean by that, surrendering is almost a death, right?
it is a death. It is a death.
It's putting
Something
away things.
has to die.
It's putting
the
away
moment.
things, and then what we get out of that is we get new life, And so my hope for the people is this. Let's just take a couple categories. Number one, if you don't know anything about Jesus or any of that kind of stuff, I want to introduce you to him. You know what I'm saying? I want to introduce you to this man, this God, who radically loves your life. So I want to be a place that introduces people, and then we want to show you what it looks like just to follow Jesus with everything that you got. Not being perfect, right? Any of that kind of stuff, but what does it look like to continue to surrender to him with our lives? And so my hope for the people is that they would grow. I want people to grow in their faith. Day in, day out. I want people to be stronger tomorrow when they wake up, knowing, man, this God that loves me is transforming my life right now. Yeah.
To go along with that, I got to echo this. God has given us the resource, and if you're listening and you've been a part of the resource here, just hear this. Not only has God given us the resource to help them be introduced to Jesus, but now we have the ability to take them to the next step of where that is, and then even further to the school.
Yeah.
The School of Ministry. We offer a Radiant School of Ministry here. So if you're not the baby Christian anymore, but you're ready to go to that next step, God has given us the resource to provide that. And we've got a class going right now. There's 50 people in there, and I'm literally in it with them, and I'm witnessing what God is growing that next level of people is like. And God gave us the resource to do in whole, like to take someone from not knowing Jesus to take them all the way to maturing in their faith.
Here's my hope. My hope is you come as you are. So if you're in the valley, you don't have to be out of the valley before you start coming to church.
Yeah, come on.
And I feel like that's a lot of people's concept is like, I need to be cleaned.
Sure.
I need to be, out of the valley before I can.
How silly.
And it is.
But it's real.
Very real.
It's like taking your truck, going mudding, walking out with a paper towel and trying to wipe it down before you go to the car wash.
Come as you are.
It's just silly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just get to the car wash.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Get in there. There's a process. There's a
Just
process.
show up.
Here's the deal. I want to echo this too, is because the vision's not stopped. I think the vision's only gaining momentum and all this kind of stuff. Man, we planted Will's Point a year ago. We got more things to do. We've got more things to do. Why? Because we want to help people find and follow Jesus.
That's an Easter egg. Yeah. Is that an Easter egg you planted right there? Well, it was great having you on, Adam.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
And I can't wait to do more episodes with you.
Let's go.
Let's go.